Hola mis amigos, I can't believe that we are already in September of this year, and I've realized that there are a few things that I would still like to accomplish before the end of this year. And that's why in this video, I'm sharing with you my study plan for the rest of the year. So one thing I really need to finish is this book, Corazón Tan Blanco, por Javier Marias. So currently I'm on page 98 and this book has a total of, let me see, déjame ver cuántas páginas tiene. Tiene 303 pages. So I still have a lot of work to do. The thing is, I started this book back in March and I'm still not finished yet. So I've been fairly inconsistent. I do have some excuses. One excuse was I paused reading this book so I could read another book. Other than that, it's just because I've been very inconsistent and I haven't been making reading this book priority, even though it's actually really good so far. And another thing that's making me very inconsistent with reading this book is not making a decision on how I actually want to read this book. And what I mean by that is, do I actually want to do more of an analysis of this book, as in I want to read it very slowly, I want to make sure I'm understanding everything, I want to take a lot of notes, or do I want to read this book without note taking and just try to finish it as fast as possible, and then maybe in the future I'll come back to this book and do an analysis of it. So that's something that I have been, I think, struggling, and that's been kind of tossed up in the air on which one I'm going to choose. So that's the first thing I need to do as far as the plan to finish this book by the end of this year. If I don't make the decision, every time I open up this book, I'm just going to be kind of confused on how I should read it. So that's why that will be my plan. I'm going to make a decision on how I want to read it for the rest of this book and then finish reading it. Another thing that I want to do while I'm reading this book is to read it out loud, but also to read it with my Castilian accent, because that's also a big goal of mine this year. And lucky for me, the writer of this book is a Spanish author. Call me crazy, but there are two other books that I would love to read by the end of this year. One is Short Stories in Spanish for Intermediate Learners by Ollie Richards. And then the next book is Yo no soy tu perfecta hija mexicana by Erika Sanchez. So the reality is I might not actually finish these additional two books, but I still have a strong desire to read these two books because I just bought them a few months ago, and because I already finished Short Stories in Spanish for Beginners, so I'm very interested to see how different the intermediate version is going to be. And I know they have different stories in this one too, so I'm very excited for this one. And for Yo no soy tu perfecta hija mexicana, I just heard really good things about this book, so that's why I love to read it. And in general, I just love to read, so. I have links in the description box of this video for each of these books if you would like to learn more about them. Now, some other goals of mine are to increase my gym vocabulary, my cooking vocabulary, and then also to write more. So when it comes to gym vocabulary, that's something that I've had a desire for a long time to develop because I really didn't have any idea of how to talk about different verbs related to working out, or even how to direct someone to work out at all, or the different names of machines, and also the different names of muscles on our body, right? That's one reason, one big reason why I wanted to tackle gym vocabulary, because I really didn't know anything at all besides like the basics. And then with cooking, it's about the same thing. I've realized how limited my vocabulary was when it comes to talking about food and cooking. So that's why I want to increase this vocabulary, and then I can have more diverse conversations with Spanish speakers, because after traveling to Mexico, after traveling to the Dominican Republic, I've realized a lot how much people talk about food, and then also just how complex the different names are as well. So one thing that I need to do to increase my vocabulary with these two different topics is to consume more content in Spanish related to these two topics. So I want to start reading more news articles about food and about cooking, looking up recipes, and then when it comes to the gym, watching YouTube videos of people working out. I need to make sure that I have a lot of output as well, and I don't just have this all in my head. So for my output, I plan on speaking and writing. You're putting out what you receive in. That's what I mean by output. And then with speaking, I'm already using italki, so that's one way that I can continue to have conversations about cooking and about working out and things like that. And then another method that I actually started a few months ago, well, I think probably at the beginning of this year, but now I'm doing it a lot more, is using Instagram. And what I do is share stories of me speaking in Spanish. So I've been doing it while I'm cooking, explaining exactly what I'm doing. And that's something that I wasn't really doing before. I wasn't talking about it. Like I said, I was just reading about it, and that was it. Watching YouTube videos about it, and that was it. Another big goal of mine for the end of this year is to develop more accents. I want to develop my Dominican accent, my Castilian accent, my neutral accent, my Mexican accent, and my Cuban accent. So that is a lot. And this is the first time I've ever wanted to learn so many different accents all at one time. At the beginning of this year, I realized that the Dominican accent that I was developing last year started to reduce a lot. So my main method for developing this accent is to speak as much as possible with the Dominican accent with my Dominican friends. Luckily for me, I met a Dominican at the gym that I work out at. So we are actually having a lot of communication in person, but then also through text message as well. And then probably watch a little bit of YouTube channels to be able to develop more vocabulary as well. If you're enjoying this video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Now on to the Castilian accent, the accent from Spain. So I'm basically a complete beginner. I am a baby when it comes to Spanish food, culture, and history. So a lot of the vocabulary that I see and that I hear when I'm consuming content from Spain is completely unfamiliar to me, and it's actually very challenging to understand what they're saying as well. So one thing I know that I need to do is, well, I already mentioned it, I'm going to make sure that I am reading this book out loud because it already has vocabulary from someone from Spain. I also need to make sure that I'm writing down new words and phrases that I come across because I haven't been doing that, and that's why my vocabulary level is very, very low right now. I don't know too many Spanish words that I can use correctly in context. It's something I definitely want to improve upon as well. And then I'm also going to record myself speaking with this Castilian accent and then try to compare it to native Spanish speakers that live in Spain, because that's basically how I've developed the accent that I already have right now, by imitating this one guy that I saw on YouTube. He was a part of this one interview that I was watching, so my accent is actually heavily influenced by his. And I'll probably take more italki lessons from tutors from Spain, because I've already had 2 different tutors from Spain that I've had conversations with earlier in the year, so I'll probably set up some lessons with them. I'll also put the links to the profile pages on my italki tutors so you can check them out as well. Now on to my neutral accent. The reason why I'm developing this particular accent is because I realized how terrible it was at the beginning of this year. I mostly use this neutral accent when I'm talking with new Spanish speakers that I meet for the first time. And I don't know exactly why I do that for, but it's just a habit. Now with the Mexican accent, I'm not trying to do anything too heavy. I want to focus more on developing my Castilian accent. So I want to put a lot of time and effort into that. But with a Mexican accent, I want to learn more slang at the very least. And another reason why I think this goal came about, to learn more about the Mexican accent, is because of my italki lessons. I've been having italki lessons with this one tutor from Mexico, I think since February of this year now. Now with developing the Cuban accent, I don't plan on doing anything really heavy study-wise. I don't plan on like making flashcards or consuming a lot of content from Cuba, because I'm trying to prioritize the other accents that I want to develop, but I primarily just want to talk to my Cuban friends. And I should clarify, when I say develop an accent, I'm not saying fully develop at all, but more of like the process of developing it and trying to sound more like a Spanish speaker from a particular country. About 2 months ago, I started taking salsa dance classes and bachata dance classes, and I can tell you it has been one of the best experiences of my life. And not only that, I realized that this is actually a really good environment to learn Spanish. So one of my goals when it comes to dancing to la salsa y la bachata is to be able to explain dance steps to someone in Spanish. And what inspired this goal was not only coming to these dance classes, but our instructor, he speaks English and he speaks Spanish to the class when he is teaching all these amazing dance moves. So it's been really nice to be able to gain this type of vocabulary because he's giving directions to someone of what to do. Also very nice to be in this dance class because I'm listening to Spanish music as well. So I'm getting a lot of exposure to the Spanish language. And then I also have the opportunity to talk with the Spanish speakers that are within my class. So that's why I want to gain a lot of vocabulary that is related to dance, so I can be able to explain to someone that I'm dancing with, what should we do, but all in Spanish. And outside of these dance classes, I don't plan on doing a lot of studying too much for it, like writing down a whole bunch of different words and phrases, but mostly just consuming what I am listening to at these dance classes. Because what I've realized is learning this type of vocabulary and then having it stick and then being able to reproduce it is actually not that difficult for me. The vocabulary is, I don't know why, but it's just not super complicated for me. In comparison to the vocabulary that I'm trying to learn from Spain, the difficulty level is very low. But I might journal about it a little bit, and I'm definitely going to be watching a lot of YouTube videos, but just for fun so I can learn some new steps. Now you know what my study plan looks like for the rest of this year. Now I want to learn from you, what does your study plan look like for the rest of the year? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm also excited to share my results with you and to give you more tips for learning the Spanish language. Make sure that you head to the description box of this video so you can find more videos about creating Spanish study plans. Mi nombre es Josué, esto es Spanish Blueprints. Muchas gracias por ver este video y nos vemos pronto.